Y'all ain't ready for this one. Because what if I told you the dirtiest, most scandalous love triangle in hip-hop wasn't hiding in tabloids? It was happening right under our noses the whole time. We're talking about Lil Durk, the so-called voice of the streets, sneaking in late nights, coded lyrics, and secret meetings with none other than Asian Doll, the same woman who cried rivers, tattooed Von's name, and swore she'd never move on. Yeah, the same Asian Doll who built her entire image on being King Von's eternal queen. So tell me, how does a grieving widow end up entangled with Von's closest brother? The internet's receipts are messy late-night flights, blurry hotel photos, leaked audio where a female voice whispers she doesn't want anyone finding out. Fans are replaying Durk's verses, digging through Asian's cryptic posts, and the dots are connecting faster than they can deny. This ain't just messy, it's volcanic dot, so the real question is, did Durk betray his brother's legacy for a secret fling? And did Asian Doll play the biggest role of her life? Buckle up, because this story doesn't just shake drill culture, it rips it apart. They always say loyalty in the rap game is the one thing that separates kings from traitors. They always remind us that when a brother dies, his circle is supposed to guard his legacy like a fortress. But what happens when that very fortress crumbles from the inside? When the man fans trusted to carry Von's name forward might have been carrying something else entirely, his woman. Because that's the storm shaking the internet right now. The whispers say Lil Durk and Asian Doll weren't just grieving partners in memory, they were secret partners in something a lot messier. At first, it sounds like gossip. Another round of Twitter threads cooked up by clout-chasing accounts. But the timing, the screenshots, the hidden meanings in music, it all stacks up into something heavier than idle talk. Remember, King Von's bond with Asian Doll wasn't a fairy tale. It was messy, unpredictable, full of breakups, reconciliations, tattoos, and public meltdowns. Fans couldn't get enough of their toxic chemistry, the kind that felt real because it was never polished. When Von died, Asian Doll transformed into the queen of grief. She made his name her entire identity, cried in live streams, claimed she could still talk to him through dreams, and plastered his face across every interview. But if you were paying attention, the cracks were visible, even in those early months. After Von's death, her proximity to Lil Durk stood out. Publicly, it looked like solidarity. Durk was Von's brother in arms, the voice of the streets, keeping Von's memory alive in song after song. Asian Doll showing up beside him made sense at first. But anonymous insiders now claim those appearances were only the visible part of the iceberg. The real story was playing out behind closed doors, in studios after midnight, in SUVs with tinted windows, in hotel lobbies where cameras weren't supposed to flash. Let's not act like Durk is a stranger to controversy. His name has been tied to beefs that escalated into real-world violence. His lyrics have been accused of inciting chaos, and his personal life has carried its own shadows. When you carry that much heat, boundaries start to blur. Suddenly, the idea of him crossing the line with Von's girl doesn't sound like an impossible stretch. It sounds like the kind of reckless move fame often fuels. Now let's talk evidence. Screenshots started surfacing months ago. Alleged DMs were Asian. Doll sent late-night heart emojis to a contact nicknamed Top Dog. Insiders swear that's the private label Durk goes by in certain circles. Another screenshot allegedly showed Durk texting, "Don't trip, you safe with me." To the average fan, that might look like support. But to those reading between the lines, it reeks of something more personal. And then there's the music. Fans went back through Durk's verses after Von's passing. Lyrics that once sounded like tributes but now play like coded confessions. When Durk rapped about holding someone down while the city turned cold, who was he really talking about? Von's legacy or Von's girl? Asian Doll added fuel when she dropped a freestyle casually mentioning the voice whispering late night. Coincidence? or a not-so-subtle nod to the man nicknamed The Voice. What makes the scandal sharper is the way money and power seem woven into the fabric. After Von's death, Asian Doll's career suddenly shot upward. She landed performances she'd never touched before, stages opened for her, interviews poured in. Was this all organic sympathy, or were strings being pulled behind the scenes? Some insiders whisper that Durk was greasing wheels, making calls, ensuring she stayed visible. Was it out of loyalty to Von or loyalty to someone he'd started? Cleaning quietly for himself. The body language moments only added gasoline to the fire. That hug at an award show that lingered longer than it should have. That smirk caught backstage when they thought nobody was filming. That SUV ride where paparazzi swore they saw two silhouettes slipping out the same door. Each incident on its own could be shrugged off. But string them together, and suddenly you're not looking at coincidences, you're staring at a pattern too. Messy to ignore. And then there's the silence. Because when fans first started shouting about this alleged affair, neither Durk nor Asian Doll rushed to deny it. They didn't post long notes defending their names, didn't slam the gossipers, didn't issue fiery tweets clearing the air. They just ignored it. And in a world where rappers clap back at the smallest shade, silence isn't neutral, it's suspicious. The lack of denial feels louder than any confirmation. Eyewitness accounts started stacking up. Claims of Asian Doll spotted in houses tied to Durk's crew. Fans swearing they saw her leaving after-parties in the same vehicles his entourage used. A blurry photo circulating online showing two figures who looked a lot like Durk and Asian Doll in a Miami hotel lobby at 3 a.m. Of course the photo was grainy. Of course it wasn't definitive. But in the court of public opinion, blurry photos are enough to spark chaos. This isn't just about a fling. This is about betrayal written in neon lights. If true, Durk didn't just cross an industry boundary. He broke the one code even the streets respect. You don't touch your brother's queen. Von's name isn't just another rapper's name. It's sacred to fans who built shrines, painted murals, and turned him into an icon of drill culture. And Asian Doll, who positioned herself as the grieving widow, would look less like a mourning lover and more like an actress in the performance of a lifetime. It's not just scandal, it's sacrilege. Because the streets don't forgive this kind of move. Fans who once chanted "Long Live Von" are now wondering if the man leading those chants was living something entirely different behind the scenes. The betrayal isn't just personal, it's cultural. It rips at the idea of loyalty, the image of solidarity, the performance of grief. It exposes the possibility that while fans cried, while families mourned, while Von's name was etched into history, two people closest to him might have been carrying on a secret that spits on his memory. The timing couldn't be more dangerous. Von's death still feels raw. His story is still painted as tragedy. His name still brings emotion to fans who replay his tracks daily. And into that raw wound comes the idea that the people he trusted most were betraying him in the worst way imaginable. That's not just messy gossip, that's gasoline on a fire that's never gone out. And this, right here, is where the scandal officially takes root. The whispers aren't whispers anymore. They've become accusations, hashtags, thread after thread breaking down evidence. Fans are split between disbelief and outrage, between denial and fury. Some defend Durk and Asian Doll, claiming it's just hate. Others swear the truth is already clear. The line between rumor and reality is blurring fast, and if something doesn't give, this isn't just going to be a trending topic, it's going to be a cultural eruption. Because once betrayal this deep begins to leak, there's no putting it back in the bottle. And that, Irfan, is exactly where part 1 ends, on the edge of chaos, with a scandal threatening to flip the entire narrative upside down. The storm didn't just stay in the whispers. It spilled everywhere, drowning timelines, hijacking comment sections, and turning fan pages into full-blown detective agencies. The second the rumors gained traction, fans put on their investigative hats, replaying old lives, scrubbing through interviews, and dissecting every lyric like it was an encrypted diary. Suddenly, what once felt like harmless coincidences started looking like puzzle pieces fitting into a bigger, darker picture. Twitter threads began dropping daily. Some users compiled supposed receipts, showing screenshots of airline logs that ALLEGEDL had Asian Doll and Lil Durk flying on the same dates to the same cities. Coincidence? I don't think so, one viral post claimed. Others pointed out that Asian Doll's sudden glow-ups and designer fits matched the timing of Durk's rumored spending sprees. The streets didn't buy the idea of coincidence anymore. They smelled coordination, and coordination meant intent. But it wasn't just faceless fans online. Anonymous insiders began pouring fuel on the fire. One claimed Durk and Asian Doll were spotted slipping into the same hotel in Atlanta, acting more like a couple than co-workers. Another insisted that during one of Durk's video shoots, Asian Doll wasn't there for business, she was there because she was part of his private entourage. Whether the sources were legit or chasing clout didn't matter. Once the words were out, they couldn't be unsaid. And then came the so-called leaked audio. A grainy clip surfaced on YouTube, allegedly capturing a late-night phone call. The voice sounded like Asian Doll, soft but unmistakable, saying, "I don't want nobody to find out about us." The male voice on the other end wasn't crystal clear, but fans swore it was Durk's signature rasp replying, "They won't, unless we let them." Whether real or manufactured, the damage was instant. The video racked up hundreds of thousands of views before being mysteriously taken down. But by then, the clip had been mirrored across dozens of pages, burned permanently into the gossip bloodstream. Public reaction was nuclear. Some fans felt betrayed in a way that words couldn't capture. Imagine grieving Von's death, watching Asian Doll weep on Instagram Live, seeing Durk rap tributes on stage, only to now think maybe all that grief was a performance covering up something far dirtier. One fan tweeted, "If this is true, then everything we believed was a scam. They played us." Another viral comment said, "I got Von tatted, and you mean to tell me his brother and his girl were creeping behind his back? That's beyond disrespectful." The backlash wasn't just emotional, it was rage, boiling over like lava spilling through every comment thread. And yet, not everyone was angry. A segment of fans leaned into the drama, embracing it like a messy reality show. For them, this wasn't betrayal, it was entertainment. Memes flew around with captions like, "Love and Drill, Season 1. Some laughed at the absurdity, saying it was only a matter of time before something like this came out. This divide between outrage and amusement only amplified the noise, because even people who didn't care about the music now cared about. The scandal that the industry itself couldn't stay quiet either. Subtle shades started flying. A Chicago rapper with history linked to Von posted a cryptic Instagram story. "Brothers don't act like brothers no more." Another artist liked tweets about the affair rumors, fanning speculation that even insiders believed the story. And a DJ close to Durk reportedly told a club crowd, "Y'all don't even know half the story. This drill soap opera is just getting started." The implication was clear. People in the know weren't denying it. They were hinting it was. Worse than fans even realized. Money trails kept surfacing too. People dug into Asian Doll's sudden lifestyle upgrade. The luxury bags, the out-of-nowhere vacations, the access to private jets, all of it had fans asking, who's funding this? Was her music really bringing that much revenue? Or was somebody with deep pockets providing the cushion? The finger kept pointing back to Durk, and though no hard receipts were ever dropped, the circumstantial evidence built a tower tall enough to convince even skeptics. And then there was the silence from the two at the center of it all. Durk continued posting music snippets and tour promotions like nothing was happening. Asian Doll kept dropping selfies and vague tweets, but never directly addressed the accusations. This refusal to confront the elephant in the room made the scandal feel even more real. Because in the world of hip-hop, you deny fast when it's fake. When you don't deny, fans start thinking maybe this silence is an accidental confession. The fan base began fracturing. Some swore loyalty to Durk, insisting people were just trying to drag him down. They argued that grief bonds often get misinterpreted, that fans were projecting betrayal where there was none. But the opposing side wasn't buying it. They believed the affair was real, and they wanted accountability. They wanted Asian Doll stripped of her grieving queen title. They wanted Durk called out as a snake who betrayed Von's memory. The war of words between the two camps got so heated, entire threads devolved into insults, memes, and threats. Meanwhile, the conspiracy theories grew legs. Some argued that the affair wasn't just a betrayal, it was a motive. They suggested Von's death itself might have been linked to this triangle, painting the shooting not as random chaos, but as part of a setup to clear the board for Durk and Asian Doll's alleged connection. Was it a stretch? Absolutely. But when fans feel betrayed, their imaginations don't need evidence, they need someone to blame, and the streets weren't far behind in reacting. Chicago blogs reported that murals of Von were being defaced with tags calling out fake loyalty. Graffiti sprayed messages like brother or betrayer on walls once covered in tributes. The anger wasn't just online, it was physical, real, and spilling into neighborhoods that still carried the weight of Von's legacy. The betrayal narrative was poisoning the memory fans once cherished. Adding insult to injury, memes started, comparing Durk and Asian Doll to infamous pop culture betrayals. Think Khloe Kardashian and Tristan Thompson. Think Jay-Z and Beyoncé's elevator scandal. Except this wasn't tabloid fluff. This was the supposed destruction of a brotherhood that defined an era of drill. Fans felt they weren't just watching gossip, they were witnessing the collapse of loyalty in real time. And just when the story felt like it couldn't get any wilder, more receipts surfaced. A blurry photo of a necklace, allegedly a gift Durk gave Asian Doll, matched the design of a jeweler he frequented. A supposed Uber receipt leaked online, showing trips to addresses linked to both their entourages. None of it was solid enough to hold in court, but in the courtroom of public opinion, it was overwhelming. The verdict was unofficial but loud. Guilty of betrayal. The scandal wasn't slowing down, it was snowballing. And with each day of silence, with each new rumor, with each thread dissecting their every move, the affair narrative tightened its grip. The streets weren't asking if it happened anymore. They were asking how long it's been happening and what it means for Von's legacy moving forward. And this, right here, is where the story slides into dangerous territory. Because when betrayal this deep enters the spotlight, it doesn't just damage reputations, it invites fallout that no PR team can contain. The storm had already reached a breaking point, but what came next was beyond anything fans could have imagined. The rumors, the screenshots, the alleged audio, they weren't just internet chatter anymore. They had evolved into something heavier, something that demanded answers from people who'd been silent for too long. And when the silence continued, the fallout grew bigger, messier, and far more dangerous than anyone expected. The first wave of fallout hit the fan base. The divide became a full-on civil war. One side defending Durk and Asian Doll like their lives depended on it, insisting this was nothing more than slander cooked up by trolls. The other side fueled by rage, demanding accountability, demanding apologies, demanding explanations. It was no longer about music, it was about loyalty, betrayal, and whether fans had been manipulated for years. Fights broke out in comment sections, entire fan pages shut down from the heat, and longtime supporters turned into bitter enemies overnight. Then came the real-world consequences. In Chicago, where Von's name still holds sacred weight, murals were vandalized with words like fake love, and betrayal. Neighborhood whispers turned into heated arguments, with people questioning if the brotherhood that once symbolized real culture was nothing but a facade. Old enemies of Durk seized the moment, using the scandal as ammunition, spreading their own narratives to paint him as a traitor who could never be trusted. It wasn't just gossip anymore, it was becoming street politics. And the industry? They were scrambling. Insiders whispered about meetings happening behind closed doors, label execs debating how to spin the story before it spun completely out of their control. Contracts, endorsements, sponsorships, all of them hanging in the balance. Because no brand wants their name tied to the ugliest betrayal scandal in hip-hop history. Some shows quietly removed Durk from lineups, claiming scheduling conflicts. Others reconsidered giving Asian doll platforms, worried the backlash would overshadow everything else. For two people who once played the grieving queen and the loyal brother, the spotlight was suddenly hotter than they could handle. Legal whispers began surfacing too. Rumors that Von's family might pursue action if it could be proven that money or royalties were manipulated in the wake of his death. If Durk had indeed funded Asian Doll's career out of something other than loyalty, questions about financial impropriety could easily turn into investigations. And if even a fraction of the conspiracy theories about Von's death being tied to the affair were entertained, the situation could shift from scandal to full-blown criminal probe. The backlash on social media showed no mercy. Hashtags like #VonBetrayed and #DURKDoll trended for days, each tweet adding another nail to the coffin of their public images. Memes painted them as villains, fans posted emotional rants on TikTok, and YouTube commentary channels milked every second of the chaos, pulling millions of views by dissecting every rumor. The scandal had transformed into an ecosystem of content, feeding itself and growing bigger by the hour. Durk's silence, once seen as strategy, now looked like guilt. Asian Doll's cryptic posts only fanned speculation, especially when she tweeted vague lines about nobody knowing the real story and moving in silence. To fans, these weren't denials, they were confessions wrapped in mystery. And in the absence of clarity, the public wrote its own narrative, one where betrayal was the only truth. The fallout stretched into music too. Opposing rappers began throwing subliminals in tracks, mocking Durk with lines about brother's keeper or brother's thief. One rival even dropped a freestyle directly naming Asian Doll, suggesting her loyalty was always for sale. Diss tracks became fuel for streams, and suddenly the scandal wasn't just tabloid, it was hip-hop cannon fodder. But perhaps the heaviest consequence wasn't in the industry or the streets, it was in the legacy. King Von's memory, once untouchable, suddenly felt tainted. Fans who once saw him as a tragic figure now felt his story was twisted into a messy soap opera. The love triangle narrative overshadowed the music, overshadowed the murals, overshadowed the tributes. Instead of mourning Von, people debated whether his death had been the doorway to a betrayal too ugly to forgive. And still, the silence dragged on. No interviews, no statements, no clarifications. Just two central figures posting as if the world wasn't tearing their reputations apart. But the damage was already permanent. Even if they spoke, even if they denied everything, the public's trust was gone. The scandal had carved itself into history, and no denial could erase the screenshots, the whispers, the graffiti, the outrage. For Von's fans, the betrayal was too deep to patch. For the industry, the fallout was too expensive to ignore. For the streets, the silence was too loud to forgive. And for Durk and Asian Doll, the love triangle they thought they kept hidden had become the very storm threatening to destroy everything they built. The fallout wasn't just scandal, it was collapse. Collapse of trust, collapse of loyalty, collapse of an image carefully crafted over years. And the question hanging heavy over everyone now was simple. Can anyone come back from a betrayal this big? Or is this the point of no return? where legacies burn and secrets explode into ashes. Because once a mask slips this far, it doesn't go back on. And once the truth leaks, there's no stopping the flood. So here we are, at the edge of the mess no one thought would ever surface. A brotherhood that fans swore was unbreakable, a love story that millions believed was untouchable, and a legacy that was supposed to remain sacred. But the leaks, the whispers, the receipts, they tell a different story. If even half of this is true, then everything we thought we knew about loyalty, grief, and love in the drill scene collapses into betrayal, greed, and lies. And now the questions burn louder than the music. Did Lil Durk really betray the memory of his brother by moving in silence with Asian Doll? Did Asian Doll really play the role of grieving widow while hiding late-night phone calls and secret meetings? Or are we witnessing the most elaborate setup in hip-hop history? A smear campaign so twisted, it makes fans question every tear ever shed. The silence from both of them says enough. Because when truth is clear, you shout it. But when guilt is heavy, you stay quiet. And their quiet is screaming louder than any denial ever could. So now, I'm turning it to you. Do you think this scandal is proof of a hidden affair, or just the internet dragging two names into a firestorm? Was Von betrayed by the people closest to him, or is this another conspiracy cooked up for clicks? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation isn't ending anytime soon. And if you want every explosive truth, every leak, every scandal they'll try to bury, make sure you like this video, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because here at Spillera, secrets don't stay secrets, they explode.